Hey, what's going on, everyone? Getting off to a 14 to 15 minute slow start. My business partner, Bitcoin Zay, is out sick today, and he is also the technical expert for those who knows us. So I didn't know how to go live on this cell phone, on the web, or anything. So I'm trying to learn all this stuff since he's not here today. So I'm learning on the go. That's I don't know how to do simple social media things, but whatever. I am a part of the social media generation, but I've never really jumped into it, and I'm learning the hard way on days like this. So it's all good. But anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Gentleman of Crypto. I'm trying to set up this Facebook live stream real quick. If it goes, good. If it doesn't, whatever. Boom. There it is. I'm just gonna go live for right now on Facebook. Hold on one second. Boom. All right, good to go. Let me get some of this background stuff out the way on Facebook, and boom. All right, live on Facebook and YouTube, Gentlemen of Crypto, episode 4. Like I said, Bitcoin Zay isn't here today. He's out sick, so I'm here holding it down myself. Still got a lot of good stuff to talk about. If you watch the news this weekend, a lot of craziness going on in the Bitcoin world, so we'll make sure to hit on a few of the things, and let's just jump right into it. I'm sure everybody... from our Friday's episode, we were talking about the Equifax hack that carried over into this weekend. One of the things we didn't say, we kind of alluded to, but we didn't just tell people to do it. We was kind of curious to see who were going to do it on their own. Was to go heavy in Civic Key. For those who were paying attention this weekend, Civic Key literally jumped, I think, about 53% from Friday night to Saturday afternoon or something like that. And for those who don't know what Civic Key is, we covered, I think we did 2 videos on already when we did the ICO one and then when it was actually released. But Civic Key is it's a company it's a utilization company by Vinnik out of South Africa. He's on Shark Tank down there, but he basically made it so that you can protect all your identity and you can keep it on the blockchain, secure and all that good stuff. And it's one of those use cases where Equifax was using that, they wouldn't be able to be hacked at the proportion they were, but they weren't. So anyway, Vinnik came out with Civic Key about a month and a half ago. And it's the use case is for things like Equifax to be able to secure all your social security numbers, your identification. And it jumped, like I said, it jumped up 53% over the weekend. I think about 6 or 7 hours between late Friday night, early morning to Saturday. So we had a little bit in that. We did all right, but I even had to rethink. I was like, damn, why didn't I go heavy in that? But once again, this kind of shows you how the news cycle, how it affects the crypto market right now, because the market cap is so small currently. But let's see, besides that, one of the big things, we covered Alexander Vinnik already. That was the guy who was in charge of the BTC-e exchange, the one that the United States has said that he was laundering money and, he had ties to the Russian mafia and all the other stuff. And, I had my conspiracy theories to go along with it as well. But he was back in the news again. He was basically saying that he doesn't know how the U.S. was allowed to even arrest him or bring charges against him when he didn't work in the U.S. or never visited the U.S. as a Russian citizen. So he found that odd. Also, his wife spoke on it, and she basically was, what did she say? Oh, she basically said the U.S. was trying to use him. They were framing him to use him for his intellect. And it was weird that he would even be tried in the U.S. since he didn't work or live there. So his wife is saying that the U.S. is basically trying to take him, to use him for his knowledge about the Bitcoin markets, crypto markets, something that I've said before as well, not necessarily him, but what the U.S. and other governments worldwide are doing, since they don't have, their own in-house people, they have no choice but to go out-house. And if people don't want to play along, they're going to make them. But there was some interesting comments on the article I read, though. Some people basically said the U.S. were kidnappers because they basically brought charges on a guy who didn't work or live in the U.S. With the help of Greece authorities, and they arrested him and confiscated his money. So literally, people are calling the United States government kidnappers for this one, and I hate to say that it's an interesting case, but. And not only that, the U.S. said he was laundering money. It's not the only person who's laundering money. The biggest money launderers in the world are banks right now. I think Wachovia the real reason had it forced to shut down a few years ago is because it came out that they were laundering money for cartels and stuff. No one went to jail behind that. People got fined and all types of fees and all that stuff to pay. and then they just close down their name and redo it under a different business. But no one goes to jail for that, so that's interesting. But because that Alexander Vinnik story was even bigger than that, the fact that they say they're trying to use him for his intellect and all that, the bigger story that came right after that was that South Korea finally came out, and South Korean courts came out and said that confiscating Bitcoin is considered illegal by a government, by a private party, anybody. And this is huge news. This is huge news. It was actually on our video Friday. We were talking about Bitcoin taxes and how one of the new people came in and basically said that, under $600 worth of Bitcoin, for normal everyday purchases like coffee, whatever, they wouldn't be having a tax for that, or they were trying to pass legislation in the U.S. so they wouldn't tax that. And I won't lie, I remember Friday, I even said, I was like, you know what? It seems to be a step in a good direction since they're trying to fight it. But literally over the weekend, I was talking to Bitcoin today. I was like, you know what? We gave ground on that. And that isn't something you should give ground on. The taxing Bitcoin is something any of us should give ground on, because it's something that, first of all, was created for people. It's created for normal people, everyday people to use. A, B, the government, when it first came out, they didn't even acknowledge it. They didn't even acknowledge Bitcoin until recently, until really this year, we're just now acknowledging it, put regulations on it. So we have something that government and private organizations and banks didn't acknowledge, they didn't care about, they didn't want, but now they're saying they're going to tax it. South Korea came out and said that was illegal, for them at least. They said specifically the reason why is because it's not appropriate to confiscate Bitcoin, as they cannot assume an objective standard of value, which is true. So right now, even as the U.S. plans to tax her, they said, I remember last year, they said only 800 something people in the United States filled out or put Bitcoin on their tax returns, or filed for taxes for Bitcoin. South Korea makes a great point here. How can you tax something when we don't know the true inherent value of it yet? People are saying Bitcoin can get to 10,000 by the end of this year, not by the end of this year, the next year for certain. We've already seen it hit the $5,000 mark. And when I was buying it, it was literally $500, and I'm trying to get people on board. They're not listening to me or whatever. But, and that's the use case of it right there. Exactly. Thanks, doggy dog. It's like, it's $500. Nobody wants to buy it. Whatever. Government's not interested. Private banks aren't interested. Everybody's ignoring it. And then once it rises in value, they're saying, oh, well, now we actually do want to tax it. We actually do want to regulate it. No. Not only is that not fair, we shouldn't give ground to it. And I agree with South Korea. And once again, South Korea is going to be one of those sanctuary countries where, if there are places like the United States, there are places like China that's trying to stop the sale of it or the exchange of it. If there's places like Russia that's on the fence, then people will move to places like South Korea where they can do business and not have to worry about being overregulated or being taxed for something that didn't even exist not too long ago. In addition to them saying they couldn't find an objective standard of value, which is, once again, which for those who don't really know how to break that down, it's basically like saying, let's say I get taxed on this notebook. Lucky I don't live in the city. Yeah, I do though. Let's say we sell this notebook. They say, you know what, we're gonna put this little book is worth $5. We're gonna put a 30-cent tax on it or whatever. All right, we know this is $5. 30-cent tax makes sense. With one Bitcoin, let's say in 3 years, 4 years, it does get to that $25,000 mark. People predict. Let's say it gets to that $50,000 mark. Right? Yeah. We got some good comments coming in. Let's say it does get that $50,000 mark, $100,000 mark. So what are we taxing it as? Are we taxing it right now at its current price today at $4,300? Or are we going to wait to the end of 2 weeks from now when it's $5,000? How do we tax something when we don't know the value? So I think South Korea called that one right. In addition with that, they also said, as a digital currency, it has no physical representation. Thus, there is nothing to be confiscated. Again, kind of goes back to that Alexander Vinnik story with BTC-e. We talked about that a few weeks ago, how before August 1st, when the Bitcoin Cash split off the Bitcoin, you got 1 for 1. Well, that was at the same time, 3 days before the United States confiscated like $4 billion worth of Bitcoins from this Alexander Vinnik guy and his BTC-e. And they got the double amount of Bitcoin Cash. But once again, it goes back to, how can you confiscate something that wasn't even acknowledged as being real? It has no physical representation. And this is digital. So I wanted to highlight this because South Korea is not only going in the right direction, but this is something that everybody in the community needs to have a strong stance on. And it's something we can't waver from. And I know personally what that could mean in the future, as far as, especially people in the United States, if you don't pay taxes or something, they can arrest you and jail you. So we've alluded to this many times. And actually, Bitcoin Zay and I already talked about, like, hey, let's find some other places overseas. as like some safe haven places, buy an apartment there, and just, hey, we have it, we need it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's our government is holding us hostage right now for something they don't even agree with. They'll keep taxing you on the same amount until you have nothing left, even though they don't recognize it. I know, right? And everybody's calling it a bubble, which makes it even more interesting. So, you get taxed on it, a lot of stuff happens, and then all of a sudden they say it's a bubble and it busts. What happens to the money? That's my question, but I don't know. More positive news, though, is Bloomberg and Reuters. Bloomberg and Reuters News add Bitcoin symbol to their ticker. This is amazing. This means that now even bigger and more legitimate mainstream news, mainstream news companies and organizations are starting to recognize Bitcoin as being a real thing. So the fact that Bloomberg and Reuters just added it, right, that is awesome news. The fact that they just added it, I think we can start to debunk a lot of people that keep saying this in the bubble. It's in the bubble. Well, now you have two of the biggest business news organizations out there adding the ticker. They don't add symbols to their little ticker because they wanted to keep it on there for 3 months to get ratings. No, the things they add, they plan to be there for long term. If they just want to add a bunch of stuff, they would have added every altcoin in the market. They didn't do that. They added Bitcoin, something that's been around, something that's somewhat stable, even though it's volatile. But that's just huge news. Reuters and Bloomberg. Once they start talking about it, you're talking about that mainstream adoption. That's what comes next from these guys. But in reference to that, with them adding it to it in large-scale organizations, let's talk about China again. We always talk about it. China was back in the news again this weekend for more shenanigans. They basically said they were going to ban exchanges now. Last week at first they were talking about banning ICOs. They're saying, yeah, Bitcoin is the big daddy in the crypto world. But yeah, so China's back because they're talking about banning Bitcoin exchanges now. All right, we talked about this extensively last week. We're just going to reference it one more time. Tell your friends and family who now give you their excuse for not getting the Bitcoins because China might make it illegal. China, Russia, the United States, every government right now, which is why they are continuously pissing me off, they are controlling the media. They're controlling, some of the negative stuff that's coming out about Bitcoin. They're controlling all that FUD so they can drop the price down. That is their goal. That is the only goal of every government, every main government right now, as far as like the three I just named and some of the other ones. Exactly. Last chance train to pick up cheap Neo. Last chance train to pick up a lot of cheap stuff, Neo and Bitcoin. The reason why Bitcoin hasn't surpassed that 5,000 mark it hit last week is because of governmental and banking influence and media influence and all the FUD that they're spreading. They don't want that price to hit over 5,000 because a lot of analysts already said once it goes past 5,000, we'll face some of the same resistance between the $5,200 and $5,400 mark, and then you'll face resistance again at the $5,800 mark. Usually those marks are all psychological floors, whatever, and that's the pressure people get psychologically as far as, hey, can we get to 6,000? That's why at 5,800 you have this kind of hesitation in the market for a few days, and it's as well as 5,500. You have that hesitation at 5,200 and 5,400. But a lot of analysts are saying once we pass, this last little bit of FUD that goes from the 5K to 65 to 6,800 mark, Bitcoin will not be coming down anytime soon. A lot of big banks understand this. They know numbers. A lot of governments understand this as well. So they are doing everything in their power to keep the price below 5,000 until they can figure out regulations, so they can figure out ways to tax it, X, Y, and Z. Until governments and banks can figure out the way ahead in regards to crypto and Bitcoin, this is their goal right now, is just keep it low. So once again, this is why you're seeing China come out with the new news story. Listen, China isn't getting rid of Bitcoin and crypto, people. If anything, they're just trying to slow down or stop the outflow of money, of capital from their government and from their country to leaving it, which has been going on right now. China has strict controls over their currency, as the U.S. does. So a lot of Chinese citizens have been trying to take their money, turn it into Bitcoin on exchanges, and then push it out the country. China doesn't want that to happen, which is why they're banning exchanges. They want you to keep their money in the country. So once again, once they get a hold on that, once they figure out a way to regulate that, then we'll see those exchanges open more freely. And then once again, people, we said already, all these prices for all these coins that we say had the Asian market was a big influence of it. They're not going anywhere. They're companies. They have people behind them. They have strong leadership teams and developers behind them. They just have to weather the storm at this point. Hopefully the storm doesn't last too long, but They just have to weather the storm until a new country comes up and says, hey, we'll take it if they don't want it. So it's been pretty good. One thing I wanted to say was Roger Ver. He had happy Monday, Derek, and great sermon. I listened to it. Derek Alvarez, folks, he did a sermon. He's a preacher, a pastor. I heard it actually this past weekend. He sent me the link. It was really good. I needed that. A good one, a great quote that I saw that kind of ties into all of this is a quote from Roger Ver. For those who don't remember, he's the one who kind of made the Bitcoin Cash. He's basically an angel investor, VC businessman in the Bitcoin space. He's been around for a while with Charlie Shrum and some other guys. But basically, he had a tweet, I think it was yesterday or today. Awesome tweet, definitely saving it. But he said decentralization is a tool. Individual sovereignty is the goal. I think a lot of people get lost in that when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto because we're thinking about money, of course. We're thinking about green, how to make more money quicker. And then, how to utilize this technology to the best of its ability. But let's not forget the reason why Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was made. And some of the highlighted articles I already read out directly goes into this. Bitcoin and crypto was made after the 2008 financial crisis here in the States. And that really could have had a domino effect that hit the rest of the world. And some people can say you can't even call it a domino effect because domino effect would imply it was just one bad bank and the rest just, felt the effects. When in reality, it was many bad banks and bad bankers here and abroad. So not necessarily a domino effect, but after, the financial crisis of 2008, is when Bitcoin came out, 2009, I think it was January 2009 or something, when the first exchanges are like 10 cent or 30 cent or whatever. But the reason for Bitcoin and crypto is so you can be sovereign as individuals. You can own your own money. You can send your money and receive money and do business in the ways you want. It's not for the government, once again, to come in and tax it. It's not for the government to come in and regulate it. Once again, they're using stuff like ICOs. No, that's a big thing. Malicious ICOs. Yes, a lot of them are big scams. Probably about 95% at this point because I am getting emails and seeing a ton of ICOs every day. Majority of them are scams. Can you still make money with it? Yes. Very, very risky. I mean, I would say for some of the ones that look like scams but have good marketing teams, you literally have like a 48 to 72 hour turnaround to get your money out there, hits the market before people realize it's a fake project. But over-regulating it isn't going to help anything. That's the government way to come in and actually, use their force to say, you all need us here to help you. No, what everyone needs to do is what crypto was meant for. It's decentralized, individual sovereignty. Each individual needs to do their due diligence or get with groups who can help do the due diligence with them. Government coming in isn't going to save you. Just because they say this is a good ICO, this is a bad ICO, it won't save you. Somebody said it is BitConnect a scam. I don't know. I'll say that. I know some people in the community use it and they say they make money with it. I've never used BitConnect. I am not, with the exception of the exchanges, I'm not big on giving anyone Bitcoin or whatever computing power or cloud mining storage. I'm not big on doing that. Once again, I just said it. It's individual sovereignty. And I kind of looked at BitConnect. It was a while ago. It might have been like a year or two ago. I can't remember. But for stuff like that, I personally rather figure out how it's being done and just do it on our own. A Bitcoin Zay and I, and we'll get a team together and we'll figure out how to make money. But I'm not in the business of giving away my Bitcoin or giving away any computing power. None of that. I'll do what I can to help the community, but it's too many scams here to kind of look at it. Yeah, it's a referral. It's a referral pyramid style program. Somebody else just says the user seems solid though. Bitcoin Connect, BitConnect, whatever you call it. I don't know. I'm not big on it, but I know some people use it. What's your take on Bitcoin Cash? I think Bitcoin Cash is going to continue to rise in value the same way Ethereum Classic rises in value to Ethereum. However, right now, Ethereum has a big question mark over it. Ethereum Classic actually might be the better token to use in this use case because it is still decentralized. But Bitcoin Cash it's the opposite effect. Bitcoin is supposed to be more decentralized than Bitcoin Cash. However, time will tell. But as far as making money and the price of it, it'll continue to grow as Bitcoin grows. I don't think it'll surpass it anytime soon. But as Bitcoin hits 5,000, 6,000, whatever, expect Bitcoin Cash to be trailing behind, hitting its benchmarks at 1,000, 1,400, 1,600. So it's still a place that make money and you can buy it cheaper than Bitcoin, so that's a good thing. Still a new project. Like I said, I just mentioned Roger Ver. They do have some very talented business people behind it. It might not be, I'm not saying if it is or isn't in the best interest of the community, but as far as from a business perspective, they have people behind it that knows how to run a business. And we were kind of mentioning last week, a lot of these projects don't have people behind it that know how to run a business. They have people behind it that are great developers and great software engineers. So at the end of the day, from just a financial point of view, I would say you can still make money on Bitcoin Cash because it's someone behind it that's in the interest of making money as well as doing good business for the community. So that's it. All right, so one thing I wanted you all to take a note is a little number I saw. Who knows if it's all the way true, but they're saying there's going to be 5,000 ICOs next year. Like I said, 90 to 95% are scams, if not more at this point. 5,000 ICOs. So what does that mean for you and me? It means a lot of due diligence. It's definitely going to be a lot of due diligence going around. We're going to have to share the community so, people can attack different projects and come back with information and we can all let each other know. Yeah, do your research. And then the second thing it means is a business opportunity. It's literally a business opportunity. 5,000 ICOs. People, if you're sitting at home right now, figure out how you can, where's the business in this? Maybe not in the ICO itself. Maybe you need to learn how to, easy money to lose on ICOs. I'm not even talking about investing in the ICO itself though. I'm saying, where can you, as someone who's looking at the crypto market, the crypto community, where can you find your niche to make some money at? And with 5,000 ICOs next year, I see nothing but opportunity as far as you can literally become like an ICO consultant. Study all this year's ICOs, study last year's ICOs, know the numbers behind it, know how they're made, all that good stuff. I think Vinnik Lingram also just released a post on Medium about 2 days ago, the website Medium, and he had basically what makes for a good ICO. But the big point behind that is if there's 5,000 ICOs in the space happening next year, there's a chance for you to do something in the business side of it and help them, and you can make yourself some money. So I'll look at it. So two things I saw was, will Bitcoin hit 3,400 before it hits 7,500? I think we've already tested that floor and it's over. However, because of the government and big banking influence, you never know, because like I said, they are doing everything they can to keep their foot on Bitcoin and crypto's throat. But guess what? They're doing all that, and I woke up today and it's still $4,250, $4,300. So apparently what they're doing isn't working. So as far as 3,400, I think that's wishful thinking, or 3,500, whatever you said. I don't think it's gonna get that low. I think the lows we'll see maybe it's 36 to 3,800. And then as far as the 7,500, that's still a long way to go. I don't think it'll go back down to 3,400 before 7,500. Like I said, we gotta get past the 5,000 marks. It's like three main marks there at the 5,200 mark, 5,400 mark, and 5,800 mark. 5,800 mark. So once we get past those, we can kind of see it toward the future. But dropping down to 3,400, I just don't see it happen. If it were to drop down to 3,400 today, literally it'll just be buy orders left and right, and people going long on it, and the price would drastically increase. So don't see that happening. Saw somebody else say that instead of getting into ICOs, they'd rather wait to hit the exchange. I'm with you on that. For one, because I'm in the U.S. and now we can't get in ICOs, but before it was regulated, we were in a lot of ICOs, some of the more recent ones. It's a good thing and bad thing. The good thing about the ICOs is that, yes, you do get a chance to get those huge returns that are hard to find these days now that the market's kind of, as volatile as it is, it's still stabilizing. And but the risk of it is you never know what's going to happen. We had one ICO, and I don't want to name, I don't want to call them out, but they basically had some bad news leading up to like a day before or 2 days before the release of their platform, and the price just dropped. You know what I mean? So when that happens, you basically just either, not necessarily lost your money, but you're stuck with the ICO until they can turn a profit, unless you do want to cut your losses and pull your money. And then the second thing is, it's not always bad to wait till it hits the exchange as well, because more information is available as it comes. If you get it before, it's very limited information. You got to read your white paper. You got to do your own due diligence. By the time it usually hits the exchanges, especially if it's a big ICO, you have media reporting on it. You have other people in the industry reporting on it, so you give a better snapshot. I saw somebody ask about Ripple. I am bullish on Ripple. I'll tell you why. Ripple in general, XRP, I'm not a huge fan only because they work with banks. So it's like I'm trying to get away from something that you're working with. However, just from a business perspective, I told you I'm unbiased when it comes to business. If it makes money, I really don't care. Granted, they're not doing anything like morally wrong, but I'm very bullish on Ripple because Ripple is making some big moves right now. Like, they just opened an office in Mumbai, I believe. I know they have a London office. Where else? They have offices here in the States. I mean, I've looked at their website. They're hiring people left and right. They're hiring managers of X, Y, and Z, marketing directors. They're hiring people. And then, of course, they just had the, was it Bernanke, I believe? They scheduled him to speak for them, the guy who was the head of the Treasury. So Ripple has some money behind them. They clearly know what they're doing from a business perspective. And at this point, they're making, Bernanke, whatever his name, Ben Bernanke, at this point, I feel like Ripple is becoming too big to fail in the short term. Once again, who knows what's going to happen long term? All it takes is for another coin to come around, another organization to come around and displace them. But right now, I'm personally bullish on Ripple because they are loading the market up with employees of theirs and building their company. So they're not doing all that building to fall short of their goals. So we'll see what happens. I know they got a lot of stuff coming up in September. Biggest story I almost forgot because I didn't write it down, but I remember I commented on it. Yeah, Ripple's still cheap. I mean, it had a great increase. I believe earlier this year was late last year, earlier this year was at 0.0085, so less than a penny. As I tell everybody, less than a penny. And now it's at like 22 cents. So technically speaking, Ripple already had its, astronomical rise. However, at 22 cents, there's still a lot more to go. Somebody said Civic. Civic covered Civic when we first started with the Equifax thing. Civic jumped 53% this weekend. For those, we kind of hinted toward it. We weren't going to tell people, what to buy and when to sell. We don't do that for free, at least. But no, we definitely hinted towards Civic last week when we were talking about the Equifax app. We said, imagine if somebody made a product, Vinnik Lingram, that worked to hide your Social Security and secure and all that. And literally, Friday night, Saturday morning, 53% on the Civic key. So if you caught that one, good job to you, kudos. But the biggest story out of all this stuff, or just as big as South Korea, because I think South Korea declaring Bitcoin confiscation illegal is huge. But even bigger story, one thing we have been telling everyone we worked with since last year, literally around this time last year, was like, hey, next year the debt ceiling may get raised in October. They're talking about the debt ceiling again in the United States. I was in the military during, furloughs and sequestration during 2013? It was 2013. Kind of going to 2014, I saw the impact it had. I'm telling you, it is real life when the government runs out of money. Deployments were stopping and slowing down. Literally we had an office with like 10 or 15 officers just sitting around. You never want that, people. You never want that many officers just sitting in the office with nothing to do, okay? So my point is the effects of that is real. But Donald Trump came out this past, was it weekend or week? I think it was Saturday or Sunday, he said something. He basically said not only are they not even talking about raising the debt ceiling, they're talking about getting away from the debt ceiling in its entirety. Do you know how huge that is and what it would do to the crypto market if the United States came out and said, we're done with the debt ceiling? For you and I, that's what this means. That means we owe a lot of money on our credit card, and we keep asking our credit card company, hey, can you just raise our limit? We're going to pay you back one day, raise our limit, we'll pay you back one day. And then that one day comes, Sunday, and we say, you know what? Don't even worry about the limit. Just take the limit away, and we'll figure out paying you back one day on our own. So that's what basically just happened. The United States, President Donald Trump came out and said, instead of raising the debt ceiling, let's just get rid of it. Well, if we get rid of the debt ceiling, that shows a lot of our partner nations that we aren't really good at paying back our credit. And if that does happen, I believe the price of gold and the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency will spike. Once again, I am not a financial advisor, analyst, any of that. I'm not a professional at what I do. I just know a lot about the crypto market and how to make money in it, and I've done well in it. But that's just the way, that's my optic on it. If we say we're getting rid of the debt ceiling, just the fact that he already said that, I really think China's just holding the market down. But if we do get rid of the debt ceiling, the price of Bitcoin is going to spike. Hold, people. HODL. And Derek, you just asked about Kik ICO. So right now, I've been looking at a lot of ICOs right now. I have about 6, I think, that can do somewhat well. That was the other thing I forgot to mention. Only thing with the ICOs in general is that you have to, sometimes you have to hold, you have to be in the ICO for like a month, 2 months before they release your coins or their tokens. And that's if they do it on time. So, the reason why you haven't been seeing as many best altcoins you buy in ICOs is because we've already been in some right now and we're still in some. We're waiting for them to be released. So we're not going to spread ourselves thin jumping into more. But I will answer that one since you had a Kik ICO in general. For those who don't know, Kik, K-I-K, who has the app and all that. They also have a ICO coming up for the Kin token. I think that it won't be as big as they believe. However, it will be a use case for it because from what I've seen, the kind of people who use Kik are also the kind of people who use the Ashley Madisons and the divorce thing. What's the divorce thing? Or the cheat on your spouse website. I don't know. All the little websites where you don't want to be found out who you are. A lot of those people use Kik. And because of that, I think a Kin token will work for them because now they can get away from using their credit card, debit card, and all, have this trace of financial transactions to say or do or buy whatever it is they do on there. And they can use their token for that. So I do think it'll be big from that point of view. But still, that's a very niche market. So I don't think it'll just be crazy huge. And then the second thing about Kik, they've been doing a lot of marketing. So if anything, if you were just looking to make money, I believe the best money you can make is in 48 hours of that token. Is literally if you were to buy it now, and once it hits the exchange, you were to sell. That's what I think. If I were to go buy the tokens, we were looking at buying into it, but right now it's just not worth the risk. It literally isn't worth the risk. It's just going to make a quick flip. But that would be the only way I see it really getting some money right now. And then maybe long term after a year and a half. The vast majority of the Kik coins would be held for user rewards. Right. Once again, long term, a year and a half from now, 2 years, you might see that price increase. But it's definitely not a short-term project. All right. I think I done talked myself and you all to death. Nothing else is going on. Just kind of quick recap. South Korea said it is illegal to confiscate Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general because there is no inherent objective standard value and it doesn't have a physical representation, which I agree with. Alexander Vinnik, BTC-e, the guy who the U.S. with Greece authorities arrested, saying he was laundering money for whoever. They're basically saying that the U.S. is trying to kidnap him for his intellectual property, which I don't know, might be true, might not. Too many conspiracy theories going on right now. People's Bank of China, central bank, who feels threatened by Bitcoin, which is why they have made exchanges. They banned them for now. They do it every week. Between China, Russia, and the U.S., they all have a concerted effort with the banks to drive the price down. So at this point, they can buy some just in case it does become popular. People, hold your Bitcoin. That's all I can tell you. Hold your Bitcoin. And of course, next year there will be 5,000 new ICOs. So it's a great space to find a new niche for business. I mean, once again, it doesn't have to be anything huge. You can literally I know there's only 2 websites right now that have all the ICOs listed and the dates and stuff. You can literally make another one of those. You don't have to be the first one. You got to be the best one or the second best one. You got Lyft and Uber. Lyft came second. They might not be all the way as better as them as far as service sometimes, but it's still a very competitive partner organization. So think of it that way with these 5,000 ICOs. And of course, I know why you waited to the end for the free Bitcoin. I appreciate you watching. It'll be more fun when Bitcoin Zay is back, as he usually says the crazy stuff that he's like, what's that skit? The Key and Peele skit with the bad Obama and the regular one. I'm like the regular Obama. Bitcoin Zay is like the other one that's gonna say what's on his mind. But let's see. For the free Bitcoin today, because I know we got to make it fair. Free Bitcoin. Any comments? Who wants to tell me what we're gonna do for the free Bitcoin? I always lean on him for the free Bitcoin. I don't know. For the free Bitcoin today, how about you comment and let us know where's my Bitcoin? I'm trying to give it to you right now, Lee. It dropped a top 10 coin list on it soon. Possible. Okay, yeah, there we go. We'll do something very random today. I appreciate that, Derek. For the free Bitcoin today, tell us if a football team had a coin, what would be the token name to it? I don't know. If a football team had a coin, what would be their token name? I think that would be pretty good and have a lot of fun since it's football season. Put that in quotes. The funniest 2 will get the free Bitcoin. I didn't announce today's winner from last time because Bitcoin Zay handles everything. Oh, you know what? We can't do football, everybody. Scratch that. We can't do football. I forgot we got international viewers. We got people talking about UK and stuff. All right. Let me think. Pirate Go. NC State coin. I already like that. We got our alma mater up there. All right, I'm reading the comments. For the free Bitcoin, let's just say, tell us when you think Bitcoin is going to hit the price of $5,000 and why. So just literally say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. Tell us when Bitcoin is going to hit the price of $5,000 and why. That's it. And I'll tell you what, the best 2 responses I get, I'll make sure we get you all free Bitcoin. As I said, I didn't have last time's winner because Zay handles all the free Bitcoin and giving you guys that. So I'll tell him what we're doing. It's the best 2 comments of whatever I just said because I forgot, and we'll give you that free Bitcoin. Until next time, you can follow us at Kirby Crypto, KRBECRYPTO, on Facebook, Twitter, and of course subscribe to YouTube. And for the free Bitcoin, when it's going to hit the price of $5,000 and why. Thanks for watching.